Welcome to session 2AT, Modernizing Code, Older Than You Are, One Newbie's Germany. Let's crack on because of the delays. Over to you, Misty and Sudhanshu. Have a good one.
Oh, thank you so much, Stuart. Hi, everyone. I'm Misty Decker, and I work at Micro Focus. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Sudhanshu Dubey. He's at Accenture now, but when we started our friendship, he was a student in grad school. So what we want to talk about today, let's go to the next chart, Sudhanshu. We're gonna first, I'm supposed to do my due diligence here. One of the things I really love about GSE UK is this emphasis on giving back to the community. So I want to remind you all to support the charity raffle. Go ahead and follow the link to donate to lifeboats, the Royal Lifeboat Institution, and the Guide Dogs for the Blind. All right. With that, next chart. I want to tell you a little bit about what this project is before the bulk of the time is going to be Sudhanshu presenting to you. We in Micro Focus worked with the Open Mainframe Project. They have a mentorship program at the Open Mainframe Project where students are given a stipend to actually work on a mainframe project over the course of the summer. And those projects are nominated by volunteers in the community. And we are, as Micro Focus nominating this project, we had to define the project goals and we had to offer up mentors. And Sudhanshu had kind of a powerhouse team here. Guy Sofer was his, he had two technical mentors, Guy Sofer and Gary Evans. And then I was able to serve as the career development mentor and helping to get some publicity for his project. So on the next slide, I want to tell you just a little bit about what the project was, and then I'll let him describe how he went about it. The goal was, we know that modernization of those existing COBOL applications is really important. I long say that the mainframe isn't old, but the applications on it can be. And when people say the mainframe is old, the mainframe can't participate in the new digital economy, they're really not talking about the mainframe or the infrastructure. They're talking about those applications. So we wanted to prove that those applications really and truly can participate in the modern world of IT, and that it's not that hard to actually do it. So we defined this project and asked Sudhanshu, with only a little bit of mainframe experience before he started, to go through this process and to demonstrate how it could work. So Sudhanshu, why don't you give us a quick introduction to who you are and your background and how you set about this audacious goal that we gave you.
Okay, hope that I'm audible, Misty. So welcome everyone to our presentation, and I'm Sudhanshu Dubey. Currently I'm at Accenture, but like Misty said, when we were doing this project a few months back, I was a student just out of graduation school, just out of BTech. So at that time I had just a little like 3-4 let's say 5-6 months of experience with mainframe. That too experience, when I say, it was just doing courses about mainframe and learning what the mainframe is and a bit about COBOL, but I had not any real experience with the mainframe other than the Master the Mainframe contest from IBM, which introduced me to mainframe. So I entered this project with very little experience, but very high hopes, because when I was when Misty told me about this project, I got really excited that yeah, this is something that's very real. That's a demand. Like I've heard, like even with my little experience with mainframe, I've heard that yeah, mainframe is old and there's no scope, and like why are you doing this? But with this project, we were clearly we can say that yeah, it's not the mainframe and it's the application, but even the applications have a way that they can be modernized, and that was our goal, to show that they can be modernized without any disruptive activity, like just break them apart and make them new or something like that. So that was the goal, and that is what got me into this project. And so yeah, let's talk about the project more. So we had three major tasks for this project. We have already talked about the aim, that was to demonstrate the options for modernizing an existing COBOL application. So, but the task, we had three major tasks. So the first was obviously to modernize the COBOL banking application. So, like if you want to show something to someone, to prove something to someone, you have to do it and you have to show that it's actually possible. So that was the first task, to actually modernize the COBOL banking application. The second was to generate the documentation so that others can also understand what was done. And if they want, they can reproduce it. So documentation was an important part of it, because again, our goal was to show to the public. And so like first they want to see and then they want to do it themselves. So documentation helps them with that. And lastly, to tell the whole world very loudly and clearly that if a student can do it, any business can too. So yeah, we were doing it, we were generating document, but we had to go out and like say to the people, say to the world that yeah, we are doing something, like see, this is what we are doing and this is what is possible with COBOL applications, with modernization. So using conferences and webinars, like we are here at GSE, so we have been to a lot of conferences about which we will talk later. So let's talk about the first task, that was to modernize the COBOL banking application. And when a business wants to modernize the COBOL banking application, their goal is to uh, transform a sad customer to a happy customer. So let's see how that is done. But first of all, what is application modernization? We have been saying modernization for a long time in this whole presentation, but what is application modernization? So one thing that's very realized by everyone, that everyone knows, is that change is inevitable. That's what Thanos said. But for business critical application, change should be like, it should have some properties. It should be gradual. It should be carefully planned and precisely controlled, and have low cost and have very low risk. So it is this type of change that we are calling application modernization. The change should have these properties for it to be labeled as application modernization. Now the question is how to modernize COBOL applications. So there are four simple, easy to understand steps to that. So the first one is analyzing the COBOL application. The second is identifying services candidates. Third is isolating and exposing them as services. And the fourth is connecting them to a new modern UI. So here we have a mainframe and we have a sad customer. Now, why is the customer sad? Because he's not able to access the application in the mainframe in a way that is suitable for him. So like now we have a lot of new technologies, like we have our mobile phones. People like to do everything on their mobile phones. They don't want to, and even if they are using laptops, they want like cool looking and easy to use intuitive websites. They don't want to go to the green screen or the terminals. So that is why the customer is a sad customer, because he's not able to access the applications that are on the mainframe. So let's see how we can make him into a happy customer. And so the first step of COBOL modernization is analyzing the COBOL application. Now, by analyzing means there are two parts of it. So the first is understanding the architecture of the code. So you need to understand the code very thoroughly, and then extracting business rules. But what are business rules? So business rules are advanced way of documenting the code with additional info, like the overall action that a set of line performs. So there is the code documentation that is usually there, like we write comments with the code. But business rules, they don't only say the technical thing that is going on, like this variable is transformed into that variable through this mathematical equation. No, they also, like in addition to that, they add a layer of business understanding, that this is a business process that is going on. We're not talking about the algorithm. We're not talking about the mathematical thing that's going on. We are talking about the business process that is going on, so that even the people who work at the business level, who are like managers and stuff, so they can understand the code very easily. So this analyzing the COBOL application, this is we did it using Micro Focus Enterprise Analyzer, and in the slides I've attached a video through which you can understand how we can analyze a COBOL application using Enterprise Analyzer. So moving on, so let's have a look at the original COBOL application, like how did it look like. So now I'll just stop sharing here and start with the video. So here we have our COBOL banking application, and let's see how it looks like. So we go and we type the transaction name, which is bank. And this is the sign-on part, and we have to enter our username ID, a user ID, and passwords. So there are some user IDs that are valid, like B00004. And now we are at the screen, we are at the menu. And if you see that there is a screen name called Bank 20, and this is helpful because it tells us about which screen we are using, and because of the naming convention that the program uses, that the application uses, we can tell that which programs are linked together because of the screen names, because of that 20. So there's this, the screen name is called Bank 20. Then the program that handles the screen is called S Bank 20. The program that handles the data is called D Bank 20. So there's this good programming conventions that are followed, which help us in analyzing the application. So this whole application had 3 layers. So like I said, there's a screen layer, which has Bank 20s. There's a business layer, which has B Bank 20 name. Then there's a data layer, which has D Bank 20 name. So data layer, even though data layer was a little bit different from the others for very good reasons, but it has 3 layers in the whole application. So let's first see the display your account balance menu. So we have this account information here, and the user is Desmond Jones, and there are like 5 accounts, and they have like different balances. There's service charges applicable. Some of them have transactions, some of them don't have transactions. So like here, our goal is to analyze the COBOL application and pick candidates that we want to modernize. So this part, like showing the account balance, is one of the candidate application that we picked, and we'll go through all the others, all the other menus, and see which candidates we can pick here. So this is the transfer funds menu, and we can transfer funds here, but we won't do it here because we don't want to change the records too much. So we'll just go back and we will check out the third one, the update contact information. So here you can see that there's a bit of a weird characters, and that's because there was some internal error with the screen layer. So the error was not with the business layer or the data layer, it was with the screen layer. So that's why we are not getting the current information, and we are not getting the right name. But like I said, there are different layers. So if we make the candidate using the business layer or using the data layer, we won't be getting this error. It's only in the screen layer, which we don't need in our modernized application, because we are giving them a new UI. So let's check the cost of the loan now. So this was just a bit of different from others because it is kind of an independent, like you don't need the user information to perform this activity. So we took it out and we did something interesting with this service. But let's first see how it works here. So I press and enter here, but in this screen, we use tab for navigation and we press enter only when we have entered all the information, which is why there was this error. So let's fill the other information. And yeah, so we get $104.64. So that's the monthly payment amount. So that's how this particular part of this particular service works. Then we have the request print statements, which so this like it is giving us mailing address. The email address is not available. The user Desmond Jones, but so what it says is please use F10 to confirm the request. So if you press F10, it will send the, like it will say we are sending the account information, the printed account information to that address, but we don't want to do that because we are not sure if anyone lives in that address, and even if they live, like why disturb them? So yeah, let's not do that. And let's check out the last menu, obtain more information. So this is just like, sorry, the information you requested is not available at this time. Please try the website of Micro Focus. Thank you for your interest. So this is just a screen that is showing that, yeah, we can't do that. There's nothing else to show. And so we have some options here, but not all of these are convertible to services. Not all of these are required to be converted to services. So we picked 4 services from here. One was the initial sign-on that we performed. The one was display your account balance. Then we picked update your contact information, and we picked the calculate the cost of loan. So we picked these 4. We could have picked transfer funds between accounts, but the update your contact information, transfer funds, they perform similar activities. So just to not be redundant, like we picked one of these. So we picked update contact information over transfer funds. But yeah, one thing I would like to tell here is that all this picking of service candidates, they are like in our case, it was not much of an issue, but when you're doing it yourself, you need to consult your whole team that which service candidates you need, which service candidate the business needs, which are easy to apply, which carry the least risk. So you need to consider these things when you want to pick these services. So there's the, like I wrote a blog on this, and you can check it out. We'll share the link later in the presentation. But this process of planning the business, planning the service candidates, picking the service candidates, so that is a crucial part of the whole planning. So you need to do it with your team and with a lot of brainstorming. So now that we've seen what the original application look like, let's go back. So thank you for using Micro Focus for that, what the message says. And we will just finish and disconnect. So that was the video. Let's get back to the slides again. All the switching requires some time.
Well, so I think one of the things that you really take away from that video is that the application looks like old screen. It's not as easy to use as what we're used to in a lot of applications that we're using. And Sudhanshu took you through how it's structured, which was the first thing you really need to understand. All right, so go ahead, Sudhanshu, next step.
Yeah, that was, Misty summarized it very well. So yeah, so we've seen the look, we have seen the original banking application, and now we understand even more what is the value of modernizing it. Like Mr. said, it is not accessible. It is not even navigatable for a lot of people. You need like some kind of understanding to navigate it, to use it, and which we are not used to, which the average customer is not used to. So, like I said, identifying service candidates, that's our second step in COBOL modernization process. So candidates are identified based on high business value and low degree of required code changes. So you want to get the maximum value without with the least risk. Okay, maximizing the gains. So the result should be minimal required testing, increased speed, lower risk. So we used call maps, we used Kix flow diagram, executive reports, data flow diagrams, etc., which are provided by the enterprise analyzer to pick these candidates. So the enterprise analyzer gives you a lot of these diagrams. You can generate them, and then you use them to pick your candidates. For example, we have this sample diagram here. This does not belong to the COBOL application that we are modernizing, but what we can see here clearly is that there is auto clustering, right? So you can see that these programs are tightly coupled, and there's high cohesion between these programs. So they are likely to be made into one service candidates because you cannot reasonably separate them from each other. So these kind of diagrams give you a very better understanding, a very clear idea of what you want to do, what you want your end result to be. So let's talk about what we decided our end result to be, and this is our target architecture. So we have the AWS cloud, which was hosting all these services. Another thing to say here is that we picked like one single cloud to host all these services, but we could have gone with 4 different cloud machines or 4 different, let's say, hosting areas to have these services because they are logically independent. The only reason we picked one cloud because it was a demo project and we were showing something, so we don't want to use a lot of resources. We don't want to incur cost. So we have this one AWS cloud, and in these 3 services reside within the enterprise server, Micro Focus enterprise server, and one service is out of that. Now these 3 services, they require the mainframe environment to run, and like they need even more than mainframe environment. So they use Kix web services, which is provided by the enterprise server. So which is why these are within the region, because this enterprise server, it has separate logical regions. So you can see region 1, region 2, region 3, and these regions provide independent Kix web services, which is what these applications use to communicate with the UI. So first we have the sign-on application, then we have the account balance application, then the update contact info application. So like I said, we picked 4 candidates, and these are the 4 services of those candidates. The 4th one is the loan calculator application, and like I said, it can be put into a standalone because it does not require sign-in. So we made it into a standalone DLL, so it's just a compiled object file, and it is called by the Python using C-types library, and the UI is built using Flask. So that's a web UI for this Python project. And for so sign-on application, it does not require a UI because there's no use of signing in. There's no use of user authentication when there is no authorized task to perform. The sign-on application is just an like a service that is complementing other services. So the account balance application, it is run on Android application, and the update contact info application, it is run. It is called by a web UI, which is built using very basic PHP, HTML, and CSS. So these are our 3 widely different UIs that we have built, which are using the 4 application, which are from our COBOL application. So so what we are doing basically here is we are extracting part of the monolith architecture, and we are breaking it into microservices, and then we are using different technologies to create UIs for these microservices. So let's go on. So isolating and exposing them as services, that's our third step in COBOL modernization. So once the service candidate is clearly defined, the needed resources are gathered and they are safely extracted and isolated. So there were steps like after identifying, you need to slice the programs and get the dependencies and stuff and put them into one region, as we call it here. So put them into one region and then connect it with the monolith also if you want, and connect it with the Kix web service, let's say what we did here. So like there are stuff that you need to do, there are processes that you need to do to expose them as services. And for these processes, especially for the slicing part and for creating into regions and stuff, so Micro Focus Enterprise Developer was another project that we used, and it was very helpful, especially with the slicing, because when you slice the program from a monolith, there are a lot of things it is connected to. So you need to decide like what you want to cut and what you want to keep. So all of that was done by the developer, enterprise developer. So I did not have to do a lot of these stuff. So which makes the process easier. So these services can then be deployed together with the rest of the workload monolith or onto separate compute instances. Like I said, they can be put into 4 different clouds, and that won't be an issue. So initially we had the monolith and we had a static customer. Now we have extracted microservices from the monolith and deployed them on different cloud platforms. But the customer is still sad because he is not aware what is going on in the backend. For him, nothing has changed. So he's still not able to access the services he wants, the application he wants. So he still remains a sad customer. But moving on, so connecting them to a new modern UI. So next we create the interface for these services, and we have multiple options to create these services, which are web service, RESTful service, Android apps, Flask web app, and like you've seen, we have used almost all of these. So you now another thing that I would like to highlight here is that the usage of different technologies with the same Kix web service is possible because the Kix web service is able to use JSON as an intermediary. So it is able to convert the JSON request into something that the COBOL application can take, and the response of the COBOL application, the output of the COBOL application, it is able to convert that into a JSON response and then send it. So all of these technologies, the Android app, the Flask web app, the web service, all of these use JSON as an intermediary language, a method of communication with the Kix service and with the COBOL, which is working in the backend. So that's how all of this is possible. And because we are using JSON, so we have even more options than what we have displayed here. So even more technologies are possible because all of this is done using Kix services. So now we have the monolith application, the mainframe. We have the microservices which are extracted from the mainframe and deployed on cloud platform. And we have the different UIs. And because these UIs are connected to the customer, now we finally have a happy customer. So moving on, so let's have a look at the update context service. So how this service looks like. So I will have to stop sharing again and go back to a different video. So give me just a minute. We are looking at the update context service. Yeah.
So I really like, while you're pulling that up, I'll just say I really like how you structured this project so that you handled each of those services in a different way. So it serves as a really good demo of the range of options. And as Sudhanshu's pulling this up, all of this is available in a GitHub that he'll be pointing to towards the end of his presentation, where you can see the actual code and the demo videos, and he's written a number of blogs that describes the process. All right.
Okay, so Misty, is it visible?
Yep, it is.
Okay, let's play it. So we have the update contact information service here, and first you need to sign on. So it will use the sign on application. So like I said, this is utilizing the sign on application. So we are actually using two different microservices here. So again, we are using a valid username B001 from and any random password, because that's what is there in the backend in the COBOL in the vsym files actually. So we get a message, welcome Lucy Lockett. So first we are able to view the contact information which is sent by the COBOL application. So the user ID is username, address, country, postal code. Email ID is not there, but send info by mail it is no, and send info by email is also no. So we'll try to add the email ID because it is not there already. So after clicking update, these fields are now changed into text boxes, input boxes that we can enter. So we'll just enter email. Some fields are not editable. This is something that is done by, that is there in the COBOL application, that these fields cannot be changed. So we will enter just a email ID, lucky.lockett.com, and we'll submit them. So it says update. Okay. So now you can see. So what happened here is that when we submit it, it sent a request to the COBOL application that this is the updated information, and the COBOL information again, the COBOL application again sent that this is the information that I have now after updating the vsync files. So we can see that this email ID has been updated. Now we will try to change some other thing. So let's just change their block number, their apartment number or building number, whatever it is. So now it is changed. So what is happening, like I said, is that we send the updated information to the to the microservice, and then it updates it and sends back in response that this is the updated information that I have. So we can log out and it will log it out, and then we are back at the sign on screen. Okay. And now we'll need to do a lot of jumping between the screens.
So you were able to use, modern interface tooling for that front end, but the back end is still the COBOL that you've separated as a service. And you happen to be running it in AWS cloud, but really that COBOL backend could be running wherever you want it to be. The important part is understanding that structure and finding the pieces that could be broken out into microservices. Correct?
That's right. And
Okay.
I would like to even point out that we are using the COBOL application, yes, but we are also using the vsym file as the data storage. So like this can be run into a mainframe, like you said. This is pure mainframe stuff that is running in the backend, even though it is running on AWS cloud or wherever you can run it into in a enterprise server region, but it is purely mainframe stuff, vsym files, COBOL application, and all the stuff. So next, we will have a look at the account balance service. And just to avoid all of these switching between screens, we will also look at the loan calculator service. And then we will continue with the generate the documentation. So
and maybe
yeah.
we don't see the whole videos, Sudhanshu, because we're running out of time, and I want to make sure we have a chance to finish up. So go ahead and show a quick, pick one of them that you think is more interesting.
What I would rather do is that I will fast forward these videos.
Okay,
and
that sounds good.
I will reduce some of the explanation there. So let me just put them on. So account balance. Okay, here it is. So the account balance, and I will just fast forward it.
So this is a mobile app that we're looking at, Sudhanshu?
Yeah, this is an Android application. It is running in my phone, and it basically just fetches the account information, all of these savings, account numbers, and last transaction, account balance, and stuff like that. So it is an Android. The main thing is that it is an Android application. It is available in the customer's phone, and again, it uses two services. The first one is the sign on. The second is the account balance. First you sign on, and then the second service just sends you the information that, yeah, this is all the account information that we have. There's nothing else there because we are not updating anything. It's just viewing, so it's a read only kind of service. But it's useful if you want to just check your account balance quickly. And then we will just see the loan calculator. Again, we will fast forward it. So here we have to enter some of these information. This is again a web service built in Flask in Python. So you just enter some amount and you get the monthly payment amount. Now, the good thing about this service is that first, of course, it is standalone. It is not using the enterprise server. So it's just Python and COBOL talking to each other. So you enter some information, some numbers, and you get the monthly payment amount. But there are some validations that are in place. So if you enter amount things that are not valid, so it will give you an error message. So please enter non-zero term. And these validations are, again, they are done at the COBOL backend. So it is not Flask that is checking these numbers. It is COBOL that is checking these numbers, and these messages are also coming from COBOL. So without register 100%, you can't have, like, these are logical stuff. You can't have a rate 100 more than 100%. So all of these are happening in the COBOL application.
I think the main point here is that you could have written a loan calculator all on your own, right? And this is a really tiny example, but in the business, we're talking about large applications or lots and lots of applications. Why would you sit down and rewrite a loan application calculation tool in another programming language when you already have one that works? Just because you want it to look different on the outside to the customer. So by retaining that COBOL, you've got the faster path to innovation without redoing the easy, stupid stuff of just doing the exact same thing in a new language is kind of a waste of effort. So what Sudhanshu's been able to prove here is that, this is not that hard, right? There is work involved, but it's entirely doable. And it unlocks the value that you already have in those applications. So go ahead and share your chart, Sudhanshu, and let's see if we can get to the punchline here, which I think I've kind of already given away some of the punchline. All right. You're on mute, Sudhanshu. Sudhanshu, we lost you. You're on mute.
Okay, yeah. So what happened was, like, when I shared the slides, my audio goes on mute. Sorry.
Okay. No worries.
So, okay. Anyway, I'll just continue with the slides. So yeah, the second task was generate the documentation, and the first is the technical documentation. So we have documented the original architecture, the target architecture. Of course, you saw a view of it. So there's guides to extract the required code and create enterprise developer projects. There's guide on how to configure enterprise server regions, because honestly, the configuring the enterprise server regions was the most difficult part of this project. It is something similar to like how configuring mainframe is kind of the cream part. It is the difficult part. So configuring the enterprise server is the kind of a difficult part, but we have guides on that, and we have guides on how to deploy these modern UIs. So some of these are very simple, like you just compile the Android application into Android from Android Studio and just install it. But then there are stuff with the Flask or with the PHP that you need to do. So you can scan this QR code right here, and you can reach our GitHub repository where you will find all this documentation. And then there was another fun part of the project, which was writing blogs. So I've written blogs, 4 blogs till now, and more are in the queue. So the first one was stepping through the door to mainframe world, my journey, like how I became a mentee of the Open Mainframe project. Second is COBOL modernization, which is the first blog describing this project, why it is needed, why we are doing this, and what are the overview. Then we are talking about analyzing application older than you are. So in this days, we are describing the first step, which is analyzing the application, how we analyze using enterprise analyzer. Then we are talking about service candidates, why they are important and why you need to give a lot of thought in picking your service candidates. So you can read all these blogs by scanning this QI. It will take you the Open Mainframe blogs page. Then was the last part, saying it out loud to the world. So we are presenting at conferences and webinars. So far, we have, this is our 6th conference together, me and Misty doing our tour around the world, virtually, of course. So the first was the Enterprise Computing Conference, which was very early in the project in June 13th and 15th. So that was our first conference. Then we went to share virtual experience, which was somewhere around the mid of the project. Near the end, you can say it was August was the last month of the project. Then there was this webinar, the first you can say webinar where we described the whole project. So that was on September 8th. That was Micro Focus webinar. Then there was the Open Mainframe Summit, where we got a slot at our along with the other mentees. So there you can check my project and also the project of other mentees that were related to COBOL. And then we got the very prestigious Open Source Summit. So by now the videos of Open Source Summit should be in YouTube. So if you go and check out their channel, you should be able to find out our presentation. We got a whole hour there. So that was a lot of fun. And now here we are at GSE UK Virtual Conference 2021, live in front of all of you. So yeah, you can scan these QR codes to reach some of these recordings of these conferences. And now the major part is that COBOL modernization is a simple and doable process. That's one thing. Why it is simple? Because it is a well-defined process. Like you've seen, it's a 4-step process, and all of these are clearly easy to understand. That's what I mean by simple. And it is doable. So there are excellent tools available. There are tools that I've used, the Micro Focus products, but there are also other tools which are open source tools that I've used that I've not explicitly mentioned here. For example, with the loan calculator, I used the GNU COBOL compiler. So there are excellent tools that you can use to do COBOL modernization, and it is urgent. COBOL modernization is a very urgent requirement of the business, of the enterprise. And we have just linked to one link that FDIC chief states legacy system as the #1 concern for banks. You can go to internet, you can find a lot of other information on why COBOL modernization is required, why COBOL developers are required in these times. So yeah, that's the one-line conclusion. COBOL modernization is a simple and doable process, and it is very urgent. Very urgent. I've not written very here, but it is very urgent. So yeah, over to you, Misty.
Thank you. Thank you. So I will, this is your reminder to submit your session feedback. And I just want to, first of all, remind you that your COBOL is an investment in your business. And the companies that think the best way forward is to rewrite everything, or basically tearing down their home because they want to put on an addition. You want to make your home continue to evolve to your changing needs in your life. And you don't tear it down and start from scratch, right? You put in an addition, you remodel the kitchen, you might tear out some walls. There is work involved. It's not free, but it's certainly a lot cheaper and a lot less risky than starting over from scratch. And I think that's the main point of what Sudhanshu is saying here. There are times when you want to tear down what you've already built. In the process of building an addition, you might tear down a room and rebuild that room. And in the case of IT, there may be an application that just isn't working for your business anymore, and you need to throw it away and start over and rewrite it in Java or whatever. But it depends on the situation. And what Sudhanshu's been able to prove here is that there's a wide variety of options. And Micro Focus is just one of the many companies that provide a variety of tools. On past conferences, we've been asked, is modernization just another word for moving everything off of the mainframe? And emphatically, no. What we are saying is you start with a business need and you determine what the requirements are from a functional point of view. You don't start with the application and say, what am I going to do with this application? You say, what is it I need to deliver to my customer? And that's where Sudhanshu started. He said, they need a modern interface to these tools. That was the business need he started with. Your business need might be, we need to enable DevOps. We need to enable more frequent changes to the application. We need to isolate the business rules from the implementation of those business rules. Whatever your business needs are, that's where you start. And then you determine what is the best path forward to solve that specific problem. And sometimes that's putting it in the cloud. Sometimes that's leaving it on the mainframe. Sometimes that's getting rid of the application altogether and buying something off the shelf. A lot of times, and the analysts have shown this, a lot of times the business rules in the existing applications are still very functional, still what you need, but you need to be in a more dynamic environment. And so refactoring, where you restructure the application and isolating into microservices is what Sudhanshu is showing here, rather than rewriting is a better path forward for enabling that flexibility. So that's what we tried to prove here. Sudhanshu has done a tremendous job. I hope you can appreciate how much he had to learn in just 3 months. He did all of this in 3 months. He learned what to do and implemented it. Honestly, at a pretty basic level. He made simple interfaces, as you can see, but with a wide variety of tools. So he's done exactly what we asked him to do. Definitely connect with Sudhanshu because he's just starting his mainframe career here at Accenture. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of him in GSC and at Share and in our mainframe community. So thank you, Sudhanshu. He's on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this project, first of all. It was a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys have filled the feedback because we have another slide to show. So yeah, become a member of GSC UK. So you can see these options, these benefits that you will get, and you can check out the link, membership, or contact the email actually, membership@gsc.uk, gsc.org.uk for details. So with that, I
love that you remember. I love that you remembered this slide, Sudhanshu, and I forgot because you're already proving yourself to be a really good member of the mainframe community by supporting organizations like GSC. So that's fabulous, fabulous. Do we have any questions? We can unmute you.
No, there are no questions at this time, Misty.
Okay.
So thank you, Sudhanshu. Thank you, Misty, for that session. And thank you for promoting GSE membership there at the end, Sudhanshu. So made it just in time. Good stuff. With that, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the week with GSE.